Welcome back to More Than a Game, a podcast dedicated to the Premier League, the A-League and more. Today on the show, the APL locks in a new broadcast deal at 10 minutes to midnight as they give saving the game in Australia one last big bash. Ange Postecoglou is linked with the Celtic job, and the A-League finals race heats up in the second to last match week. I'm Colby, and like the Roar, I've missed a couple of fixtures, so I'm back in the host's seat today and playing out my pods in hand. And joining me on the pod today, we've got Tommie and Shanen. Boys, how are we?
Man, I'm well. Just another day, another lockdown day.
Another day in Casa Quarantomie. Mate, you're getting there. You're towards the end now. We've done 2 pods in 2 days. You're just like, I'm glad I can be this structure in your day.
Thank you, mate. You're just the light of my life at the moment.
And Shanen, mate, how are you? Been a while since we've been on the pod together, but good to be reunited again.
Yeah, finally back together. That big bash pun just caught me off guard a little bit, so that was class.
Oh, good boys, good. So coming up on the pod today, listeners, we've got a thrilling distance derby, a frustrated Raw, and a hungry Western Sydney. A few LC brain snaps, and we'll be taking a detailed look at the Ginger Gareth Bale. But boys, let's kick off with your moments of the week. Shanen, we'll start with you.
I'm going to go with King Kenny Dougal, playing for Blackpool, playoff final, scored a brace, and he's not an attacking player. What an absolute legend. What a great performance, and Blackpool back in the championship where they belong.
Were Blackpool that English club that got assets stripped a couple of years ago?
I think so.
Them? Yeah,
they were in the Premier League for one season. They had a good season and then just plummeted downhill, and now they're finally on the rise again. So it's good to see from a neutral kind of view.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure they had a dodgy owner who just I think it might have been a bit like Wigan last season where they bought into the club, but definitely not for the right reasons. So yeah, mate, like you say, it's good to see them back to probably a level that they should be playing at, not necessarily League One or League Two.
Yeah, and I mean the championship too. Nothing to be sniffed at. It's like I hear from time to time that it's in the top 6 leagues in the world itself. So I don't know, what you'd say about that in the standard, and I'm sure people have different views. But in any case, it's great to have another Aussie who, all things going well, he should be featuring, for them playing a lot of minutes as he has been a key to their League One promotions. So great for him and great for the former Raw youth player. So. King Kenny, long may he reign. Tommie, your moment of the week this week.
My moment of the week was going to be this, but Kenny Dougal's brace. But I did have a backup, fortunately, and it was this is probably a little bit of low hanging fruit though. This was the 20,000 fans that rocked up again to Eden Park for the Wellington game. It's a bit of a low hanging fruit, but it was fantastic to see. They not quite, I guess, the same atmosphere as what there was at Wellington, but bigger stadium, but still 20,000 people there, and they saw a great game as well. I guess we'll get to that in a little bit, Colby.
We will. That game looked absolutely wild, Tommie, and good to see the people turning up, the football starved people of New Zealand turning up to support as well. Look, I think that what do they hold the first and second place record for attendance this season now? So brilliant. Yeah. What wasn't so brilliant, boys? Your own goals for this week, Shanen.
At the Western Sydney Wanderers versus Brisbane Roar game yesterday, up in the corner of the screen, I don't know if any of you boys seen this floating around Twitter. It said Fox League, and it was there for quite a while, long enough for it to be, a mistake. And just the week where the broadcast deal was getting announced, to have that hanging up in the corner of an A-League game was just a bit of shithousery from Fox Sports, I think.
I did not see this. I was I watched this game live, and I was just glued to my phone, watching it on the MyFootball app, just swearing. I almost threw the phone across the room a couple of times. The I mean, yeah, we'll cover this more, but yeah, I was too pissed off to be like noticing things like that, and I certainly wasn't on Twitter or anything because I was too intently just staring and swearing.
It's just more of the same of what we've come to expect from Fox over the last sort of 2 years, though, whether it's just them just totally dropping their bundle when it comes to the W League, whether it's missing goals in the A League earlier this season, down in Wollongong. It's just been a hot mess for the last 2 years at least.
Was this like a breakup thing? Like, you know, the broadcast deal was announced, so they like start like swanning around and like, you know, showing us their new partners and stuff like that?
No, I reckon this is more like where like because they're starting to break up, like they're starting to throw like their possessions like out onto the street, saying like, oh, like we were never really with you, we were never really a football channel, we were always a rugby league channel.
Fuck Fox Sports. Tommie, own goal, mate.
Mate, mine was also from the Western Sydney Brisbane game, but it was before the game. This one, Carl Robinson absolutely slamming his squad that he's basically put together as well pre-game, saying that the squad has no leaders and that he's got to be the one that's got to go in there and give them a bit of a rev up. It was just bizarre, and I mean, look, maybe it worked here, maybe they heard it, maybe they didn't hear it. Maybe after the game, after they've just put in a really good performance, they walked off and then saw the clip of him absolutely slamming them on the TV before the game and just went, well, fuck you. Like I've just put in a big shift for you and you're bloody slamming me on the telly beforehand. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to see how Western Sydney respond, I think, in the next game after a good performance, after that Carl Robinson spiel, we'll call it.
Shanen, did you would have seen that as well? Is it possible that the Western Sydney players could have seen that before the game?
I don't think so, but I definitely called Carl Robinson out on it a little bit in the presser after the match. And I said to him, you know, he mentioned that his team didn't have any leaders, that he needed the right players. And he pretty much said he's got to look at himself in the mirror and realize that maybe he's part of the problem too, which I thought was good from a manager, you know, to not just heap it on the players. I think he was backtracking a little bit. And he had some praise for a lot of players. But I think he's kind of figured out which players he wants for next season, which players he doesn't want based on that. And I think he kind of had an idea before the match, considering what he was saying.
I suppose it's easy to backtrack, you know, after the game when they've just put in a pretty convincing 2-0 win. I mean, I don't know what he would have said if the Raw went up 3-0 or something like that. Maybe he would have doubled down on it.
Just a clean slate, just get rid of them all and start again.
Yeah, that's it. Burn the thing to the ground. All right, boys. Well, let's whip through a few news items we alluded to in the top of the show. The first one is the broadcast deal that we mentioned just before. Let's talk a little bit more about it. So this is Viacom CBS through Channel 10 and streaming service Paramount Plus. This week, they've announced that landmark 5-year deal to broadcast the A-League and W League in Australia. There's going to be a Saturday night A-League game on Channel 10, a Sunday W League game on 10 Bold, with Paramount Plus offering the streaming services to all matches, and it's going to cost about $8 or $9 a month, and there's going to be special deals for club members and football fans. Firstly, I'll go to you, Tommie. What are your general thoughts on the deal?
I think it's exciting. It's I guess a new era for the A-League, and I think a lot of people have grown frustrated, like we were just saying with Fox, and that like really they don't really have much of an interest in the league anymore, and they're only really sort of doing it because, well, they kind of have to in terms of broadcasting it. But here I think we've got the A-League's got a partner now that wants to help the league to grow, and I think that's going to be really exciting watching a broadcast partner who's really pushing it and really promoting it. A couple of key things, I guess, as part of that is that what do they call Viacom, CBS, Paramount Plus, whatever you want to call it. They've now got a stake in the A League. I think it's something like 3% or something like that. It's quite small, but still, it means that they get, I guess, a financial benefit if it does turn out that the league does grow and is more financially profitable, which is great for them. But it also means that they've got an interest in expanding the league and getting more people on board. So it's great for the league, I think. So all of that sort of lack of buy-in that we've been frustrated about with Fox over the last sort of probably 5 years, I think that could all sort of be wiped away in the first 6 months, maybe with Viacom CBS. So good times.
Shanen, your reaction to the deal?
Yeah, I agree pretty much with everything Tommie said there. I think the fact that they've put in a stake so that they've got, their own stuff at risk is good, because it means they clearly want the league to grow and they'll benefit from it. I do have a few concerns though. First of all, it's with the W League being put on 10 bold on Sunday. I feel like that could get hidden away a little bit and might not get given the respect it deserves, because women's football, particularly with a World Cup coming up on home soil in 2 years, is really going to be a thing that they should push, not hide away on 10 bold. Another thing for me, it might just be more personal to me, more so a lot of people in like regional areas. Our internet isn't the best in Australia, particularly in these regional areas like me. I'm in Bathurst. I don't even think we have NBN. If we do, it's like really rubbish. So to have one game on TV and the rest behind streaming, it's a bit unreliable. But aside from that, I am really optimistic about this. I'm not sure if it's just one of those things where Fox Sports have been pretty, piss poor, to be honest, over the past couple of years, where it might be the grass is greener, but they have done all the right things so far, and I'm keen to see what they do with it, really.
I guess the real fear is that because the A-League will be their first sort of sports offering, so we don't really know what to expect in terms of what sort of a package they're going to be presenting on sort of match day. So we could get a little bit of ABC when they did the Liverpool game a couple of years ago with Aaron Chen, or it could turn out to be like a really good package, and they get in the likes of Simon Hill and co, and it turns out to be a really sort of polished product. But I think 10 have got decent form in terms of doing the packaging up the Big Bash a couple of years ago. And whilst I don't think we're expecting sort of fireworks and monster trucks and BMX backflips and stuff like that, they do have, I guess, an ability to present, I guess, a quality product. And that's, I think, all that football fans want, is that a quality product delivered with respect.
Not A-League delivered differently, a la The Project, Tommie?
Oh, shit.
Any crossovers you're excited to see, boys?
Do you mean crossovers with hosts, or just crossovers with The Project?
Other Channel 10 intellectual properties promoting the A-League?
Well, we've already kind of had a MasterChef crossover with George Calombaris at the Sydney versus Melbourne victory game, if you boys remember that, one of the most iconic A-League moments. But is The Bachelor Channel 10? The A-League Bachelor might be pretty interesting. Remember Michael Turnbull? Melbourne victory was on The Bachelor. That could be interesting. What about you boys?
Tommie, you'd surely, I don't know if this is a Channel 10 show, Tommie, but Lego Masters, mate, surely you'd be all over that.
Mate, my two favourite shows on TV, Lego Masters and Maths, I think they're both Channel 9 shows.
Oh, fuck. All right. Fold the show.
The one thing I want to see is I want to see them get Kareem Bullet onto MasterChef, and they do a magic bullet episode.
Shit. Oh, all right. Well, I mean, all that and more. I can't wait. I'll definitely be getting the Paramount Plus and getting around it. I'm sick of watching this stuff on my free work phone on the MyFootball app. So I'm ready. I'm ready to upgrade. Second bit of news though, before we get into the match reviews this week. Ange Postecoglou, boys, he's been strongly linked, and I mean, this could be officially announced by at time of recording, very strongly linked to the Celtic job. After former Bournemouth manager Eddie Howe, the deal fell through with them. So it's been reported all over Scotland that Ange is the second choice, and he's firming up as the favourite to take the job. I think the Scottish Sun said that Postecoglou could be there within days, and this was like today or over the weekend. If negotiations between now and then go to plan, it's all been agreed, and they're just waiting on Yokohama to basically give him his release. I mean, I just want to get your initial thoughts on this, Tommie.
I think like it's positive. I think for Ange, I think like he's been in Japan now for a couple of years, and so him moving on to sort of a new challenge is probably something that he's looking forward to. In terms of whether or not it's going to be a success or going to end up in like a big steaming ball of fire, I think that is going to be grab your popcorn, because like we know that Ange has a bit of a fiery streak, as we saw in like the famous interview between him and Fozzie a few years ago, which it was funny watching Scots discover that as well. I think in terms of whether or not it's going to be a success, that is just a huge question mark. I mean, there was a comparison floating around online and over the weekend, which was sort of comparing the Scottish League in terms of like pressing, long balls, directness, and a few other different metrics with like the Premier League, J-League, A-League, and about 15 other leagues, including like the Greek League. And it basically had like the A-League and the J-League being sort of at one extreme. And then you had like sort of the German and Serie A Premier League sort of in the middle. And then at the far end of the spectrum was the Scottish Premier League. So it's a completely opposite league to where Ange has come from. And I guess that's probably the major fear, is that if he's a bit of a flop, then we're going to have all of these angry Scots saying, "We told you he was rubbish," or something like that.
Well, Shannon, I'll throw to you in a moment, but just on the Scottish views, we've actually got friend of the show and Celtic fan Johnny.
Sorry, I can't go over Tommie's accent. That was atrocious.
No one even acknowledged it.
Well, we'll welcome him into the pod, because I was just waiting on Johnny. I was going to give him first right of reply with that Scottish accent, and I think he's all over it at the moment. But Johnny, welcome back into the pod. Ange to Celtic. Firstly, have you heard about Ange Postecoglou? Do you know who he is, and what's your reaction as a Celtic fan?
No, I hadn't heard of him until the Howe deal fell through. I had a wee chat with Tommie about it, because Tommie messaged me, but I really don't know very much about him. I've had a little look since the announcement. At the start, it was a bit. It's still a bit disappointing, to be honest. Although he looks better now that I've had a gander at his credentials. I don't know about Tommie's comments on how different the leagues are. I'm sure they are different, but I think there's a difference if you're analysing the whole Scottish League versus the way that Celtic and Rangers are expected to play, which is very different from how the rest of the teams in Scotland play.
Yeah, because you'd almost have to just take Celtic and Rangers apart from the whole league and analyse Celtic and Rangers together, and then analyse the rest of the league together if you're going to get anything meaningful from that. And have you spoken to your mates about this, Johnny? Any other word? Is that pretty universal? The people just don't know who the fuck this guy is.
Pretty much, but I think it's a bit of a comedy of errors from Celtic. They've been very, very poor on the park and off the park for the last year. For example, last year we paid £1,300. What's that? $2,500 or whatever for season tickets to see no games at Parkhead. So I still have my season ticket, even though I'm in Australia. The family use it. So we paid for 3 season tickets to basically watch the games on the TV. Some other clubs have given their supporters free season tickets for this season. We've now been asked to renew our season tickets. with deadlines, without any manager, no inkling whether we'll actually get to see any games. It's just a bit of a mess. And to spend 3 months courting a manager who then turns around after that amount of time and says, actually, I don't fancy it because my friend won't come with me, is a bit embarrassing.
Well, it's going to be worth holding on to those tickets if Ange gets the job, Johnny. Don't worry about that.
I hope so.
Shanen, I'll throw it to you, mate. Let's enlighten Johnny. What kind of football will Ange be looking to play if he gets the job, and how important is it that he succeeds there?
Well, here's the thing. First of all, everyone's talking this season about how good Steven Gerrard was with Rangers, but people aren't talking enough about just how poor Celtic are. They were a long way off what Rangers were. And Celtic fans have gotten kind of used to success, and they pretty much demand success. And Ange will be successful, mark my words. You can take this clipping and you can play it back if I'm right, when I'm right. But the thing is, he won't be successful overnight. Celtic are a club that have a lot of work that needs to be done. And the style of football Ange plays, it takes a couple of seasons to take into action and make happen. It happened at Raw, happened at his time at Greece, Australia, in Japan. But the thing is, when he starts to get his players in and playing the style of football and understanding the style of football he wants to play, he is going to have success. But that's not going to happen overnight. And that's my big worry, is that Celtic board and Celtic fans aren't going to be patient for a manager who's going to build something that can be successful over a number of years. They're going to want instant success. And name me a manager who could turn this Celtic side around instantly and have them dominating football again the way they have been the past couple of years. I don't think there's a manager on the planet who could turn this team around the way Celtic fans are expecting.
I reckon Thomas Tuchel could turn it around and turn a basket case of a team into a Champions League winning team.
That would be nice.
I thought you were going to say David Moyes there, Tommy, and I was going to cut you off. But yeah, Shanen, everything you're saying, I don't even think, I'm even more optimistic than you. I don't even think it will take multiple seasons. I mean, just look at what he did with Yokohama, who hadn't won a title in, I don't know, like over a decade. In the first season, he got them, I mean, they were flirting with relegation from memory before Ange came in, and then he got them to a cup final in the first season and then won the league the next season. And I actually think the way that Celtic expect to play, which is to dominate the league, will marry up actually really well with the kind of football that Ange plays. He's been dying to manage a team. Well, his style has been crying out to manage a team that is going to be the dominant force in the league. Because of the way the pressing possession, like attractive style of football that he likes to play. It was a bit of a mismatch, arguably, at the Socceroos, who were going to, of course, they were going to dominate teams in Asia in their World Cup qualifying groups. But then when they get to a World Cup, the classic dilemma with the Socceroos is, when they're back to being a minnow in a big pond, his style didn't marry up so well at all. But he will also take that experience to Celtic as well. When they qualify in Europe and Celtic are in Europe facing much bigger teams as well. Ange will take that experience with the Socceroos and getting a team like that dominates in its own pond into a bigger league as well. I think that will all translate to what he'll do at Celtic.
I would come in on the back of that and say that what people are also forgetting, because I disagree with the point that you need years. This is a Celtic team that the majority of the players have won multiple titles. Some of these players went invincible, real invincible. Did not lose a game in any competition for a whole year. Like the team is not so different. They've had a horrific year this year for whatever reason, but I can't see any reason why a good manager can't come in and make them play football. It's not like you're taking a team that doesn't play attacking football and turn them from a defensive team to an attacking team. You're taking all very creative players and just having to make them play together. And
it'll marry up well, but there'll be a clean out as well, though. That's the other thing with Ange. Like he won't suffer anyone who's not on board with him. Like, I mean, a lot of managers are like that, but Ange is definitely one of those who, there'll be a clean out when he comes in for sure.
I think that would be appreciated.
Yeah.
because there's a lot of players around now who just aren't making the grade. They don't have enough fight, and that just won't be tolerated. I think that's the I don't know if you have watched any of the Old Firm games this year, but it's been completely different. Like I mean, people have time on the ball, and that never happens when you get 60,000 fans screaming at you to move. It's usually frantic and really terrible football most of the time, but at least for the first 20 minutes. But the whole season's been turned on its head by the fact that there's no crowds. Nobody pushed them on.
Tommie, have you got any other thoughts or comments on this potential move?
No, not really. I'm just excited to see what happens. To be honest, it's I hope it comes off.
If it doesn't,
Shanen.
I'm coming for all of you.
Don't worry, we'll be all coming too.
Shanen, just on that, I've asked you before, if you think he will succeed, if Ange will succeed, should he get the job? I guess the related question to that would be, how important is it for him to succeed as an Australian manager at a big club in Europe?
Well, for all of us Aussies, it's very important, and any other Aussie managers, it's very important for Ange to succeed, because lately it's been the stories of Kuhl, Popovic, Muscat bailing overseas, and people have taken Ange's achievements in Japan, kind of not really given them the respect because it's Japan. So if Ange can show, he's an Aussie manager and he can succeed in Europe, I think it will be good for any other young Aussie managers looking to crack Europe again to say, look, we do know football, we can succeed in Europe, give us a go. Because I think Australian managers have a bad rap based on specifically the fan reaction from Scottish Twitter. They just heard he was Australian, automatically wrote him off.
I think they didn't know who he was. I had the same reaction. You've got 3 months you're hearing about Eddie Howe, who, albeit I'm glad it's not him now, because clearly he's at least in my opinion not getting any medal, so he wouldn't have survived. He'd have been out the door probably in a couple of months, so it's probably a blessing in disguise. But when you're dealing with the case where you're getting a Premier League manager, the last time we were going downhill, we got Brendan Rodgers in. It's similar. You've got a guy who clearly knows football coming in the door from England, which doesn't happen very often. I know Rangers got Gerrard, but he wasn't a manager when he turned up to Ibrox. He was a retiring football player. So it doesn't happen very often. So then when you turn around and you're getting this guy I can't even pronounce his name yet. Neither can happen. That's probably why they don't want him. They're worried about, fuck, how do we say this? Never mind how good he is.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, obviously, Shanen was mentioning those former players, a lot of whom cracked it in Europe and did really well as players, but then as managers, they got a shot. Not at big clubs, any of them. Certainly not at the stature that Celtic is within Europe, and couldn't make it as well. So that automatically counts against them. But Ange, on the other hand, while he's an unknown quantity in Europe, in terms of his managerial prospects, he's not untested, and he has he has won trophies, he has turned teams around, and he won a trophy with the Socceroos. I mean, that should just that should speak for itself. So we'll be watching with a lot of interest, listeners. This might already be this might already be announced at the time of recording, or it might fall through and this whole segment might be not worth listening to. But in any case, we'll be following it all. Thanks very much, Johnny.
Thanks for having me as always.
And looking forward to catching up and having you back on the pod soon.
Enjoy. See you later.
See you, mate. Coming up next, Bunnings A-League Match Week 23. All right, boys. To kick off this match week, I think the best place to start would be the distance derby. 3 second-half goals in front of that 22,000-strong crowd at Eden Park kept the finals hopes alive for both teams, and they were treated to a worldie by Callum Timmins. Shanen, who is this bloke?
Well, everyone's knowing his name now after that strike. I tell you what, he's really put a name for himself. And a lot of these young Perth guys have come from the NPL or the youth setup in Perth. And this season, they've really impressed me, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, in a season where we've been just singing the praises of young players, it's just another one, like you said, that's come in and made a name for himself with an absolute worldie. Looking forward to seeing him replicate that again. But Tommie, what did you make of this game? It was absolutely wild.
It was just I think the only complaint you could have about this game was that the Kiwi fans didn't get to see Wellington get up right at the end with Davila missing that penalty. I think that was probably the only bad thing for the neutral. I think it would have been great if there had been a winner and it had been a Wellington win, but I mean it wasn't to be, and probably speaks a little bit to Davila being a little bit underdone. I think he was probably rushed back, and I don't think they would have wanted for him to have even played. I think he came on as a sub, if I remember correctly. So yeah, I think really they wouldn't have wanted him to play. So for him to come on, and obviously I think he was involved in the build-up play leading up to the penalty. But yeah, maybe should have been someone else that stood up and took the pen instead.
Yeah, maybe Stevie Taylor, or one of the Wellington heroes, Tommie. I think you tweeted from our MTag account during this game. It was either you or Damo saying something like, "Oh, we're all Wellington tonight. We really want Wellington to get up." And we've had reaction to that. We've had just a listener comment from Welly Wayne on Twitter saying, "Why is it basically impossible to hate the Knicks?"
I think I don't know if you would have got the same response last season. Oh, sorry, maybe 2 seasons ago. But this season, it's been hard not to like the Knicks while they've been sort of camped out in Wollongong, home away from home, basically doing their best to make sure that the league keeps going this season. So I think everyone has really appreciated their commitment to the league this year. But I mean, I'm not really sure beyond that. I think because they are sort of our younger brothers across the ditch, and everyone knows a Kiwi and gets along really well with them. So I think it's the cultural links with them as well. And it doesn't necessarily feel like Australia versus New Zealand whenever it's the Knucks playing against one of the Aussie teams.
And Shanen, what are your thoughts on Wellington? Give us your sentiments.
Well, yeah, as Tommie said, they've kind of won everyone's hearts this season with just their determination to help make the league continue. And it really shows when they come back to New Zealand too, what a difference like a crowd can make to a game watching it on telly. When you hear the crowd just roar whenever there's a good tackle or a good shot, it's what we've been missing from football for a while, and you don't really realize it till it's gone. Yeah, Wellington Phoenix have kind of been everyone's second team this season, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've wanted them to get up in every single game where they haven't been playing the Raw. So, I'm fully on board with that sentiment as well. But just in terms of this game and the effect that it's had on the finals race, boys, it's wide open. I don't know whether you saw this tweet by Andy Howe, the A-League statistician, but he tweeted out the possible final ladder positions, and I think it was after the Western Sydney-Brisbane game. But basically, Melbourne City locked in. Sydney can only really finish second or third. But then from the Mariners down to Perth, like Mariners can finish either second or seventh. Adelaide third or eighth. Brisbane third or ninth. Macarthur third or ninth. Wellington fourth or ninth. Western Sydney fifth or 10th. Perth third or 10th. There's huge scope to move in just a match week and a half to go. Boys, how good are finals?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll tell you what, we don't have promotion and relegation in this league, but the race for the finals, particularly this season, is almost like as exciting as wondering who's going to go up, who's going to go down. It's who's going to make that 6. And if you're a neutral, you're going to be loving it. If you're a Melbourne City fan, you're probably going to be loving it because you're safe. But yeah, it's just brilliant in my opinion.
Well, and even we've seen Melbourne Victory, they've had a bit of a resurgence as well this week with turning out a good performance against the Woo. So, like, I think the only team that has nothing left to play for is probably the Jets. And that's because, well, we don't even know if they're going to be the Jets for much longer. You know what I mean? So,
Well, the VUC and the Jets can both either finish 11th or 12th. So the wooden spoon's still wide open, Tommy.
yes, it is.
But yeah, no, I saw the usual debate on Twitter's sort of sparked up again about, do we like finals, or, do we want first past the post to be more meaningful? And I guess that debate has sort of shifted slightly with the announcements to do with the Asian Champions League and the I think it's the champion that no longer gets a ACL spot. Is that right, Tommy?
I think that's the premiers, they get a full space. I think the FFA or the FA Cup, I can't remember if they get a whole space or a half space now.
Yep.
But that's it. Do we only have 1.5 places now? Is that right, Shannon?
I thought we had 2.5, but I could be wrong. I thought FFA Cup winner got it, plate winner got it, and then finals winner gets half a spot. Is that correct?
So it must be the champion that only gets half a place now.
But as much as I think we can agree that it's pretty obvious that the team who's the most consistent throughout the course of the season and finishes first, they're clearly the best team. But it's in our sporting DNA as Australians to really value a grand final as well. And you just can't, like, you can talk about, first past the post should have more importance and blah blah blah, and it means they're the best team. But I mean, they are being valued more and being rewarded with spots in the ACL and changes to names and things like that. But at the end of the day, we all remember who wins the grand finals, and I think we all do really value that. I quite like it in that it's part of Australians' footballing and sporting culture.
It's funny though, like we're trying to sort of find a home or a sort of a home in the calendar for the FA Cup in Australia now, and like in some ways the FA Cup in England, like that is their final series, right? And they have the semis and the final sort of in the last few weeks of the league, and that's sort of like what everything sort of outside of the league is sort of building up to, and we're sort of trying to have finals and the FA Cup as well, sort of.
Get the set, Tommy. Get the set.
But it almost doesn't feel like we need the FA Cup at the end of the year if we have finals. So I mean, I like the FA Cup and like as in the Australian version. So it's wild. I love it.
All right, boys, let's move on to Western Sydney, Brisbane Roar. Brisbane leaving it late to lock in finals after losing to Western Sydney, who themselves looked to be out of the race, but came back very hungry and are hanging on with a thread of going through to the finals after this pretty convincing 2-0 win against a frustrated Roar. Shannon, you were at this one. Talk us through it.
Yeah. Frustrated is what I would be feeling if I was a Raw fan. Dylan Wenzel-Halls was out with an ingrown toenail, and they just had nothing else up front. Alex Parsons did his best, Riku Danzaki. They were creating chances all match, but they just couldn't finish it. That was the thing. And even for me, not a fan of either team, I was sitting here just like, come on, guys, surely you can get this. But to be honest, Western Sydney, they really turned a leaf with this game, in my opinion. They really dominated midfield. They looked like they had more leaders on the park, and their transitional play just really caught Brisbane Roar out. Their teamwork. They were just really playing as a team for this one, and they looked like they really wanted this one, and their season was on the line. And I think they proved themselves worthy to be in the race for the finals for another week.
Yeah, 100%. Particularly that transition play, as you said, Shannon. Like every time we had a turnover in the midfield, I was just shitting myself. Like they were looking so dangerous, particularly down that right flank, where they got a lot of joy against our boy Corey Brown. Was he? No. whoever happened to be on the left flank in this game, but whoever they were was one of the gingers. They were just getting absolutely roasted
Both the
down
gingers.
down that left hand side. Yeah, both down the ginger flank. They were really been made to pay. And yeah, I don't know what happened with Western Sydney. That was why I was curious as to whether they heard that rev up from Carl Robertson, or whether they just knew that the season was on the line.
Just quickly too, I know Stevie Garcovic was a big signing mid-season for Western Sydney, and he had a bit of a slow start. But if you look at his stats from this game, he had 100 or something touches, nearly 90% pass completion, and just his off-the-ball work and the way he was, marshalling Dorans and Bacchus, sorry, was just absolutely unbelievable. And I think if Western Sydney want to find consistency next season, because they've been the most inconsistent team in the league, they need to build their squad around Garcovic. He is definitely the missing piece, in my opinion.
So does that mean they're the full set now?
Not quite.
Well, it remains to be seen whether they've got enough leaders to lead them into the finals, boys. But yeah, it's super interesting, and we've covered the Carl Robinson pre-match comments as well. So let's keep it moving then. Adelaide and Sydney. This was another pretty wild match where it finished 4-1 to Sydney after an Elsie second yellow card, where the scoreline was already 3-0 to Sydney. To be fair, Adam Lafondra got back on the score sheet with a couple. Tommy, did you see this one?
I did. Look, if there's one word that I want to use to describe Sydney's performance, it is ominous. Because Sydney FC, they looked in really top form in this one. And I mean, what are we? We're 2 weeks out from finals, or 1 week out from finals. And so Sydney are really hitting form at the right time of the season. And with City not going to be having Metcalf, Good, and J-Mac, I think you'd have to say that Sydney are probably favourites, I think, at the moment heading into finals.
Shanen, your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought this game would go the other way, to be honest. I didn't expect Sydney to play so well. I thought Adelaide, with everyone going away for the Socceroos, Adelaide haven't really been affected at all with this, and I thought they were going to show, even though Sydney is still full strength for the time being. I think only Grant's gone. I thought Adelaide were going to show that they would mean business in the finals, but they just fell apart, and I feel bad because it seems like every time I'm on the pod, Jordan Elsie's fucked up, and I don't want to just be that guy who has to talk about Jordan Elsey making a mistake. But he's 27. I think he's one of the captains in that leadership group at Adelaide United, and it's just to the point where he needs to stop making such silly errors. When you're on a yellow card as an experienced defender, you should know better. And I'm not trying to just bash on the guy. Lovely bloke, but come on.
Well, I think, Shannon, you might have given him the M-tag turnaround by slamming him on this pod, because I know myself, I've done it with a couple of players, not least of which was Bruce Kamau, Tommy Socceroos hopeful, Bruce Kamau. That I've trashed him a number of times on this pod, and what does he do? He goes and scores against us last night or the night before, whenever it was. So you might have just turned Elsie's season around.
Hopefully for his case.
But Tommy, you mentioned that Tommy, you mentioned that Sydney are looking in ominous form, and Shannon was hopeful about Adelaide sort of showing their finals chops. But is this just a case of the finals experience of Sydney against the sort of youth of Adelaide, who were sort of very strong to start with and are now sort of showing that youth a little bit, youth and inexperience?
We've talked previously on the pod, I think, Shannon, you and I, about the lack of discipline that Adelaide had this season at times, where I think they've had 3 or maybe even 4 red cards in the past, I think, like 8 weeks, which, like, that speaks to that there's something not quite there. If we talk about Western Sydney missing leaders, then there's maybe a little bit of common sense that's missing at Adelaide, in that they seem to just sort of lose the plot a little bit sometimes, and are missing a bit of a level head. And whether or not that's just sort of experience, or if it's just that even senior players like Elsie can sometimes just lose their heads a little bit in key moments, then it's, I don't know. I think it's been a really good season for Adelaide, and I don't want it to go into, I guess, a post-mortem just yet, but they've had a really good season. I'd be really disappointed for them if it sort of all comes unbundled in the last few weeks.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, they could drop out of the. I mean, it's so wide open. But Adelaide, a bit like Western Sydney, seem to be one of those teams that they can beat anyone on their day, but they could just capitulate as well and put in a really nothing performance. So that'd be a very interesting one to watch in the finals. But some other finals candidates, boys: MacArthur and Central Coast. Jack Clisby / Bale really turned this match around for Central Coast and kept them in a respectable part of the table. Considering they're almost job done in locking in finals football. Tommie, I pretty much put this on the run sheet so that you could just sing his praises, but give us the rundown.
Well, I remember. I saw Jack Clisby a little bit when he was at City a couple of years ago. I think that might have been the first year that I was in Melbourne, and so got to see him a fair bit. And he was a really frustrating player because he'd do a lot of good stuff, but you knew that he always had an absolute clanger defensively in his locker. And I think he's never really gotten rid of that. And this season, he's probably been his most consistent season. But also he's found some consistency going forward too. I think he's found a little bit of another level in terms of quality with his crosses. And now this week he's even found a little bit of a goal scoring streak as well. So really bizarre. But I think a lot of people who've probably watched him more than just sort of on the odd occasion probably thought that there was a player in there somewhere. It's just whether or not they had to deal with all of the errors as well.
Shanen, your thoughts on the redhead Bale?
Yeah, well, he could have had a hat-trick in the first half. I think he got 2 taken away from offside or VAR or something.
And he missed one.
Yeah, and I tell you what, he looked absolutely on fire. And it's only taken him, how long's he been in the A-League? 10 seasons to start proving it. But he's been very good. And I think the difference is that he's given more attacking license and less pressure to be just an out-and-out defender. The same things happened with Corey Brown at Brisbane Roar. He's had his best ever season, and I personally think that's because he's been given more freedom to attack and go forward and less responsibility defensively. So for both ginger players, both same position, it's working for him.
Shanen, give us your ginger fullback A-League power rankings.
Corey Brown, number 1. Clisby 2, and probably Brindle South. I thought he's looked decent when he's played right back. I'll put him number 3. Can't think of any other gingers. So apologies.
Are we counting Ziggy Gordon as a ginger fullback?
There we go. Ziggy Gordon. He's a good player, but I forgot about him, so I guess he's number 4.
Rip.
There's a few strawberry blondes as well at Adelaide. I don't know if any of them are actually deep down redheads as well. So.
Listeners, get at us. Get in our mentions if we've missed any more of the A-League's many red-headed fullbacks, or if you've got a view on the ginger fullback A-League power rankings. But in terms of these teams, boys, MacArthur, we should mention them as well. They were sort of in this game until the Ginger Bale took it away from them. How do you rate each of these teams' chances in the finals? Because obviously this would be a finals appearance for MacArthur in their debut season, and it would be the first finals appearance for the Mariners in I don't know how long, like a long time. So how would you rate each of these guys' chances? Tommie, let's start with you.
That's a really tricky one. Like, I really want MacArthur to make finals just so that like their fans sort of have a bit of a return, I guess, on their on them being sort of early investors in the club. But I mean, I'm probably most pleased that it looks like the Mariners are going to be playing finals football this year. I think it's we saw last year the benefit with the Western United. With them making finals and how it sort of spurred the team on a little bit for the following season and the fans on as well. But I guess I fear a little bit for MacArthur if they don't make finals. Sort of how many fans are going to be coming back next year?
Shannon, what are your thoughts on both of these teams in the finals and their prospects?
Well, the talk over the past however many weeks has been about the wheels falling off Mariners and the fact that they might not even make finals. And I think if they didn't win this match, that probably would have been them done for the finals because they just completely lost all their momentum. And it was very good to see them get the win from like a neutral point of view. I think everyone wants to see the Mariners in the final. Feel good story of the year. But the Bulls, they've been pretty consistently around that mid-table mark all year. And like I think they're one of those teams that if they don't make the finals, they'll be seventh, or if they do make the finals, they'll be one of those teams that not so much there to make up the numbers, but goes out in the first week. So it's kind of been like it's been a good starting base for the Bulls, in my opinion, but they're a long way to go. And next year with Davila, maybe they might go up to that next level.
Yeah, that should make a huge difference, and in any case, it will be really, really interesting to see their progression next season as they continue to build and sign new players, and as fans, sort of get around them as well. So that will be very interesting to follow their evolution as a club. Two teams, boys, just to round us out on this pod tonight that aren't in finals contention: the Woo and Melbourne Victory. Melbourne Victory putting in a dominant performance against the Woo right at the point of the season where it counts for them. 6-1 winners. Tommy, are the VUC players just playing for contracts at this point?
Well, they must be, because I mean, even Cam Sober, even he put in a good performance, and I think he got at least one goal. I think he might have even got a brace. So, yeah, I don't know if Popovich was there, but it was by far the best performance that I'd seen in Melbourne Victory this year. They were really impressive going forward. It almost felt like every time they got the ball, even in their own 6-yard box, that they were going to just go up the other end and score, and it felt like that a bunch of times as well.
Shannon, what did you make of the VUC in this one?
Yeah, I just feel for the fans, to be honest, because it was a great result. They played great football, and a lot of these players who hadn't really performed this season were playing like absolutely out of their skin. Cam Sober's one, he had a brilliant match. He's had a good few weeks, and the rumours were a few weeks ago that Popovic told him no thanks. Since then, he's been scoring, playing great football, so maybe that's worked out well for him. Maybe he'll stay. Maybe another A-League club will go. But yeah, for the fans, I would not be so much happy at this result. I would just be frustrated thinking, where was this all season? Because it was just brilliant.
Maybe Melbourne Victory are just like West Ham, and that they can't play in front of fans.
Yeah, their fans are too aggressive. They can't play in front of them. They're too nervous. Boys, but just on the Woo though, switching over to them, they've had an absolutely dog shit end to the season. I think I don't know what the stat is. They've scored like 1 or 2 goals in their past, like, I don't know, 6 or something games. I don't know what, but it's just been absolutely terrible. I think they've drawn a game and lost like shitloads on the bounce. What are you putting this down to, Shannon?
Oh, look, I wish I could tell you. There was a fake tweet going around about a month ago saying Mark Rudan was shown the exit door, and I think we might start seeing real tweets about that, because I think it was Damo who said last time I was on the pod that one thing about Western United and all Mark Rudan teams is they play with intensity and they play with like a lot of grit, and they just haven't had that for a while. So whether or not that's him personally losing the dressing room, or if there's another issue in the club, I wish I could tell you. I wish I had that kind of insider knowledge. But yeah, I don't know. The wheels have really fallen off.
Tommie, what do you put the slump down to?
So to clarify that point before, I was checking while you guys were chatting, and they'd scored 2 goals in 9 matches, which
Oof.
like that's terrible, right? And while sort of in that stretch, yeah, they had the 5-0 against the Wanderers. Apart from that, they were and 3-0 against the Glory, on 3-0 against the Phoenix. So taking those 3 games out of those 9 games, they only conceded, I guess, 1 or 2 in all of those. But then to get absolutely shellacked against Victory, it does speak to maybe that something has sort of changed there recently. I see that they're playing MacArthur literally right now, and MacArthur have just gone up in the 30th minute as well. So, maybe the lights are pretty much off for the Woo fans, and maybe for Mark Roden at MacArthur. At the Woo.
So, like Crystal Palace, the Woo are just on the beach already.
Gone down to Altona or Geelong.
Gone down to St Kilda, where they're one of their homes are around Melbourne.
Ballarat Beach.
Oh yes, scenes. Well, that's probably going to do it for us today, boys. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. If you've enjoyed the show today, we'd love it if you could give us a shout out or recommend us to a mate, or just listen to the podcast twice. We've got to work on those numbers, listeners, and we appreciate all the engagement and the stuff you've given us over the course of the season. You can get around us on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video version of this podcast, which drops about a day or 2 before the pod comes out, and we'll link to all of those in the notes to the show. Later this week, or next week rather, we'll review that weekend's A-League games, and the Roos are back. So we'll be reviewing their World Cup qualifier against Kuwait as well. So Kuwait for that. Until then, enjoy the football.